All right. Let's do a quick review. What is the defect in humanity? What is the fundamental problem with human beings that forces the need of having a government system, a civil government system?
People aren't perfect.
True, but there's a very particular phrase that I'm looking for, Alejandro.
What was the question again?
What is the fundamental defect in humanity? And as a result of this defect, we need to have a civil government.
The lust to dominate.
And what? La vita dominate, which is translated the lust to dominate. I'm telling you, this is a test question. If you get nothing out of your government class, screw the citizenship test. If you get nothing out that you need to carry the rest of your life, it's this issue right here. Because if you keep this in mind, when you see politicians doing what they do, and people you're about to vote for, then you'll recognize, one, when it's time to get rid of them, but you can also recognize it in yourself, or when it's being used against you. La vita dominate, it's the fundamental defect in humanity. Where did this defect come from, according to St. Augustine? He's the one that coined the phrase. In one of the most important writings in Western Civ, that's titled The City of God.
Wasn't after he wrote the what is it called? Just finished writing it. Walked out the door.
No, I think we got a different
I think it's probably a different
story.
story.
Complimenting his hair.
We're trying to think about where St. Augustine was referencing, where he got this ideal, this defect in humanity. Don't remember? Don't say you don't remember on Monday when we have the quiz. This is on the quiz. The fall of man. Where is the fall of man? What's that story? The Garden of Eden, that's right. It's what is in theological terms referred to as the original sin.
When he picked the apple.
Yes, when both of them ate the forbidden fruit, they ushered in this defect into humanity. And that is the ability to sin. And in particular, ushered in evil. Human beings cannot avoid this. They are born into it. Our nature has been changed as a result of it. And we all suffer from the same defect, every one of us. Without exception. We all, given the right situation, will suffer or will act on la vita dominate. Remember what I said about teachers? Some of you have experienced this already, where you know no matter what, you're not going to make this class. You got to go find another class. Because no matter what you do, that teacher, and we all, every one of us have the power to keep you from graduating. If you don't pass my class, and I'm the one that teaches history, you don't go on. That's why. And guess who teaches history in summer school? So I have a lot of power over your lives. Now, the question is, how do I use that? I use that very pervertly through la vita dominate and say, you know what? Chappie ticked me off last year. He got sent to ISS a couple times on courtesy of me. I could hold that against him and demand and do everything I can, which I could, keep him from graduating.
Don't you hear like when graduation comes, like, oh, I'm not passing because see ya, this and that. Like that's the number one you hear all the time.
That's the number one I hear too.
That's the number one everyone hears.
I'll be editing that out. But I can't say that he's abusing that power. I don't know. I'm not there. But you who are there now have a word for it. You now know what to look out for in human beings. Levito dominate. Okay. Just a different lens.
Different lens, you know.
Yep. Some of you might say the same thing about me behind, in another classroom. I don't know. In summer school, they said we watch too many movies.
But yet, if you do too many lectures a year, it's like,
Yeah, if I do too many lectures, then I can't win for losing. So I do try to find a good balance, but whatever. So, but my point is, people in your lives have the power to destroy you or lift you up. All depends on how they exercise Levito dominate. I think so. Less lecturing. Because we set the foundation in this class, then we apply what we learn, like Amanda was doing on Twitter, to the real world.
You were doing a what, man?
Man, she was taking her education and
You have what?
I had arguments with people yesterday about the stuff that we learned because people were being uneducated and talking on social media about the stuff we learned yesterday.
yeah, that's good. I like hearing that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Chappie, I know you did. Last time you were in class, you even came to class and talked about
The
deportation. Yeah, you did some homework.
Yeah, I did.
Mm-hmm.
Not gonna lie about that. Yeah, I did.
All right, Levito dominate. You need to make sure you understand this. What is the first and primary purpose of government?
Protect our natural rights.
Wait, the first principle?
Yes, the first principle or the first purpose, the primary purpose of government.
To protect my natural rights.
Hang on. Okay, I heard that. Mia? What is the first purpose or another primary purpose of government? What is the primary purpose of government?
Oh, influence and power.
No, that's the definition of government. Okay, be sure to write this down. It's a test question. Yes?
Maintain order and intelligence.
Okay, it does do that, but there's a primary purpose. If it can't do anything else, it still needs to do this. Otherwise, protect our natural rights from what or who? If they're protecting our natural, huh? And who is the predator classes?
What is it, Amanda?
Wait, the person.
I don't know. She's
So if the government is protecting us from this subgroup that you're calling predator class, who is the predator class? That's the result of it.
the predator. The
No, the government.
Say again. Yes. The government's job is to protect us, protect our natural rights from each other. Their job, because remember, in society, there's the predator class of people, the people who are the more aggressive, who will run you over, don't care about your rights, don't care about your feelings. No, I'm thinking more like thugs,
I'm thinking more
dictator types. They do exist with a big fat wallet, sure. You better believe people with money can exploit those without. But people without money also exploit. Look at the jail roster. Do those guys look like they got a bunch of money who gets caught doing burglaries? No. But
They
they're
have a bunch of money because of that.
maybe, but they are the predator class and they're poor. Some of them. I mean,
Like people who crimes and stuff.
they are definitely the predator class. They are preying on someone else getting what they want from them. And it's not theirs. The government's job is to protect us from those people. That's why they get arrested, go to jail, get prosecuted, and sit there.
So basically, it's like a timeout.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. So, government's number one job It's to protect us from us. And what they're protecting is our natural rights. What are the 6? Just name one at a time. What are the 6 primary forms of government, or broad forms of government? Say it again. Yep. Theocratic, yep. Monarchy.
Democratic and Republican.
Yes, there you go. So we are in the middle of the monarch, right? We talked about the elect. Oh, I do need to make a correction. We talked about the Queen in England. I've got some things wrong. I had to go back and research that. Actually, you can thank a listener who was listening, informed me I was wrong, and they were right. I had my names mixed up. Huh?
Wasn't she the monarch?
She is the monarch in Great Britain. Her husband, Edward, was not of the royal line. She was. Though she became the queen, he was not the king. He died in the 50s. Excuse me, not her husband, her dad, I'm sorry. Her dad was king. He died suddenly, made her queen when she was very young, like 20 or 21. Was not ready for it, but she was thrust into it. Her husband was in the Navy, had to resign his commission, which he was not happy about. He was not made king. And of course, he also had to bow to her, which he really did not like. And her mother, I think she just died not long ago. She was 100 some odd. And yeah, and she's expected to live probably just as long. She's late 90s. So, and still the queen. It's her son, I said was Philip. It is not Philip, it is Charles. Prince Charles and Princess Diana, if you know that story, he picked up a girlfriend, they divorced. Now it's Prince Charles and Camilla. I probably didn't even say her name right. When the queen dies, Prince Charles will become the king, and his firstborn son will be the next king in line. Now, a lot of folks in Great Britain hopes that Prince Charles abdicates his throne and gives it to his son. They would prefer to have his son, at least many of them, versus having him. Part of it has to do with the way Princess Diana was treated in that divorce. She definitely got the raw end of that deal. She was very liked by the people of Great Britain. And her son is kind of the legacy of her. And from what, publicly anyway, he looks like he's a very good, strong, moral man, versus they know his dad is not. Does that make sense? So, and he's, of course, young and hip and popular, and his dad is 70s. I mean, he's not young, hip, or popular. So, versus, God, what is his son's name? Harry is the young one that married the American. What is the... William is the oldest? Okay. So, anyways, so I wanted to make sure I had that right, so they didn't bust my chops again in the email, so. All right.
People actually listen to it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know how they find it. All right. We got to get going, though. We're going to try to cover 15 slides. We did, yeah, I think we did cover this, did we not?
Well, not all of it. But yeah, I got that.
We talked about the Pope.
Yeah, this is what I'm on.
Yep. Okay. So this is where we're starting, aristocracy. Yeah. We talked about Cambodia's king. Oh, you didn't get those? So yeah, these three are 3 examples. There are many others. These are just 3 examples. Probably the most famous one, or the most known, is the Catholic Church, which is the Holy See. That's the actual name. Yep. The Pope is selected, typically for life. We did have a Pope recently who resigned. He said it was for health reasons. People aren't too sure about that. And then we have the current Pope. God, I can't think of his name right now. From Argentina. It's the first South American Pope. All the other popes had been Europeans. he's considered a very liberal pope. Some conservatives even call him a Marxist. Some of the things I've read that he has said sure would indicate, it raised eyebrows for me. It's not real surprising considering where he came from, because Marxism is pretty popular down in the Argentina area. So it's very likely that's the case. Not saying he is, but there's definitely some not sure the best way to put it, but definitely some indicators.
Put it the way your opinion views.
My opinion put my opinion aside. I don't ask me my personal opinion on this one, but when I compare what he says, assuming the translation's correct, to views of Marxism, there are some very close similarities there. So that's all I have for evidence, is to see what he says and how does it line up to another worldview. So, all right. This is our 1, 2, 3. This is our fourth government type. Those who are members of the aristocracy believe they are among the best, most worthy, most intelligent, best class of people, and know how to better run other people's lives than the people themselves. A good example would be, if you remember the movie The Titanic, Rose's boyfriend and her are having a discussion about getting on the boat. And she gets mad at him and says, "Don't you understand? There isn't enough boats for all these people. Most of these people are going to die." And what is his response? Not the better half. That is the aristocracy attitude right there at its finest. We take care of the better half of the population. The others are just like chickens. Who cares if they die? There's always going to be peasants. There's always going to be poor people. Say again? Often Napoleon, Santa Anna, often dictators will compare peasants to the value of a chicken. What do you do to a chicken when it quits laying eggs? You butcher it and eat it. He's done. His value is no longer there.
What do you do when a female can't have any more kids?
Moving on. So, you often, when you have a government system like this, these privileged classes come in different names. They might be called dukes. They might be called marquises, earls, viscounts, barons, baronesses. This is just from Great Britain. But they will come with different titles. One of the things our Constitution expressly outlaws any American to have a title. Nobody can have a hereditary title. You may be a duke in Great Britain, but you are nobody here. That's right. Nobody was going to be able to ride on their daddy's shoulders. If you're going to be somebody, you got to do it yourself.
Yes, sir.
Like I said, the aristocratic rulers do not believe the common people are capable or intelligent enough to make sound decisions, so they have to do it for you. Today, in our government system, you'll hear the word the elite. The elite thinks they know better than you. The elite in our country would be those who's been in power for decades. Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi. They are part of the Democratic elite. They, in themselves, are a type of aristocracy. In fact, it is said when Hillary Clinton did not win, she was really upset because she thought it was her time. It was her turn to be president. That is an aristocracy attitude. that it should have just been handed to her, kind of thing.
Has America gotten better or for the bad?
In what way? Has America gotten better? Since when? In what way?
The American economy.
Well, absolutely. By every measure, the economy has not been this good, probably in the history of the country. Definitely in the last 60, maybe 80 years. We have, I just heard this last week and again this week. There's 7 million jobs more than there are people looking for work.
Did CNN talk?
We have, I think, who do I watch in the morning? ABC.
Oh, okay.
ABC. So it's not Fox News, not CNN, but it is a left-leaning news organization, and they're the ones saying it. We have the lowest black unemployment rate in the history of this country. We have the lowest rate of youth unemployment in the history of this country. We have the lowest Mexican unemployment rate in the history of this country. Yeah, we're doing really good. And President Obama, you don't remember this, I'm sure, but he told everybody 2% was the best we're ever going to see in our economic growth from now on. President Trump says, bull, I can top 3. He's almost at 4%.
What the?
For 2 years now, over 3%, and one time almost 4. President Obama said that would never happen again, and it has. The stock market is some odd 2,000 points higher than it's ever been in history. Even with the latest drop, it's recovered. So yes, there is no measurement that does not indicate our economy is far better than what it ever has been. Huh? It's easier to do business, absolutely. So, from an economic perspective, absolutely we're doing much better. If my iPad here will catch up. One more line. There we go. Aristocratic rulers make all governmental decisions. You can't hardly see this from your seat, but those watching on YouTube can see this. Here's the different countries. It's not all of them, but it's most of them, who still has nobility or aristocratic rulers. So as you can see, whoops, I screwed that up. There we go. As you can see, there's many of them. All right, number 5, democratic. This is something that we will hear all the time. Your citizenship test reinforces this. You will hear the United States is a democracy. In fact, you hear it used like this. Our American democracy demands better. This is not American democracy. You always hear it, especially by the Democrats. But Republicans do it too. Yeah. So in a democratic system of government, where it is truly a democratic system, people must be qualified voters. These qualified voters are the ones who have the sovereign authority to exercise power. Typically, especially in the classical world, landowners, those who were free, if they had proper age, proper birth, etc., would make them a qualified voter. I'll give you an example. In the United States, when we were first formed in 1787, you had to be 21 and a landowner to vote. So you could be male and be 30 and not a landowner, and you don't get to vote. Only those of proper age and own land could vote. Now, why would that be the case in this country? Why would land ownership be a major deal?
Because they actually own something down.
They have an opinion because they.
Well, everybody's got an opinion, but you're onto something. You're onto something, Michaela?
If they own the land, they own part of the country.
Something like that, but a little bit more fundamental.
They were.
They work, yeah, but those who don't own land probably work too. The only way they taxed back then was on your land. If you own land, you have a stake in the problem. You have a stake in the resolution. So if you're going to tax yourself through that vote, you better be a landowner, huh? Because what would happen, Chappie, just like today, there are more non-landowners than there are landowners. More people rent than they own homes. So if a renter who does not own the property decides to tax the owner so he can benefit from it, how is that fair?
It's not.
It's not. That's right. Now, the flip side is, like when I lived in Lewiston, when they passed the school bond up there, some odd multi-million dollars, my landlord passed that increased tax on to me by threefold. It was only supposed to raise the taxes on the house I was renting by about $18. He raised the rent by $50. So he made a profit off of it. So, yeah, it did. I had no problem paying the increase, whatever the 1-for-1 is, before him, because he had already raised it $150 on me in a year. So, the way I got into the lease, it was a year, even though I had a year lease. I took over somebody else's lease, and so that was for 2 months. Great, $850, and then as soon as I signed that lease 2 months later for the year, it went up to $900. So that went $50, only went up $100, because then when it raised up again, because of the rent increase, or the tax increase, then it went to $950. 2000, when did I move from Lewiston? 2017. Well, in Lewiston, that was actually cheap for a house. It was non-common for an apartment, for a 2-bedroom apartment, for about $800.
My father, 3 years ago, rented a 3-bedroom, large 3-bedroom house, 2-bathroom, basement, only $700.
Yeah, everything's gone up. It's just horribly, horribly expensive. All right. So the laws and decisions are decided by the majority vote, 50% plus 1. The majority decides what is right and just. The minority has no say. Now, can you see where this might be a problem? I accidentally touched my screen, sorry. If 50% plus 1, yes?
It's a problem because what if this is over slavery and the majority just had nothing?
There you go. If the majority decides what is right and what is wrong, then all I need is to have 50% plus 1 of you decide who's going to pass this class and who isn't. Or who's going to do our test for us. How many we got in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All I need is 11. If I could convince 11 of you to say the rest of you are not worthy, you'd be out of here, or you'd get an F, or whatever the majority wanted to have done. And there is nothing you could do about it. One of the most unjust democratic votes that has ever occurred. And it comes out in 2 words in history. Anybody want to take a guess? And this is after the judge had already ruled him innocent. It was put up to a vote.
Not guilty.
That's what Pontius Pilate said. Does that name ring a bell?
I wish I heard
The Roman governor over Palestine?
I heard guilty.
He brought the accused back to the Jewish people. And the high priest and the people, he gave it back to them to decide what to do with him, and they voted what way? 2 words.
Death penalty?
Crucify him.
Oh,
Who am I talking about? Jesus. Crucify him. Nail him to a cross. That was the most, about 34 AD. Yep. The Muslims crucify Christians today.
Still?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Muslims do a lot of horrible things, like they actually kill and skin animals alive. Yeah, they do that too.
Yep. Burn them alive, drown them alive, all kind of stuff. But back to history. Under Jewish law, that was allowed. Now, if they were really following Moses' law that was gave to them through the theocratic system, that would have not been allowed. But Pontius Pilate, the judge, says there's nothing wrong here. He's done no crime that deserves death penalty. Send him back to the Jews. The Jew says crucify him anyway by vote. How about another? And we brought up slavery. The majority of those living in this country had no problem with slavery. Does that make it wrong or right?
It makes it feel wrong. It doesn't matter about it.
But the majority under democracy says it's right.
Yeah, but all the Democrats are stupid. We knew this.
How about this? In
Democrats are smart.
in Germany,
Yeah, they are. They're honestly up there for a reason.
the majority decided Hitler was going to be their leader, and the Jews had to be deported or die.
That's disgusting.
All by the majority vote. Our founding fathers understood this about La Vita Dominante and how dangerous democracies are. You do not want to live in a democracy. I'm telling you right now, you do not want to live in a democracy.
I've always wanted to live in a democracy, to be honest with you.
So what's the vote?
For real, hey, for real.
Kids are
Just
out.
to try it out.
And when the people say we've had enough of Chappie, you have no say in it.
Really?
That's right. Because the democracy always rules. The majority always rules.
Never mind with that.
The minority does not get a say.
I
Yes.
didn't think it was that easy.
Worst form of government?
Yeah, the worst.
To use a modern term, probably communism. We're going to get there later in this course.
I was gonna be like, oh, Japanese, remember? No, that was, yeah, Chinese.
Chinese communist. But see, that's still communism. Might be Chinese flavored, it's still communism. More people, here's why I say communism is the worst. More people have died in the last 100 years, now 118 years now, in peacetime than all the wars combined in man's history.
Holy
I am serious. More people have died during peacetime under communism than all the wars in mankind's history combined. Russia, China, Cambodia, Vietnam. Are they what?
Like, if they have more than two children, don't they like?
That is China. They have a two-child policy in China. Yep.
So, communism kills way more people than just being.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Doesn't matter. If you're the enemy of the state, if you're against the communist rule, then they actually have a history of going after the families of the perpetrator and will often let you watch while they torment to death your family. The Chinese are famous for, if you violate the two-child policy, to take the parents out and watch your baby be drowned in a river, or a rifle butt to its head, or kicked, or thrown in the air and land on a bayonet, and let mom and dad watch.
What's the Chuchao?
Never heard of it. In North Korea, there's been reports, in communist countries, Christianity is not allowed, and there's been reports of pastors being tied up, gentlemen, in front of their underground churches, because underground meaning they're hiding, tied up as a steamroller rolls over them, as a message to the rest of the Christians. That kind of stuff happens today, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Amanda knows. That girl, Amanda.
Our last form of government. Republican. This is not Republican Party. Do not confuse the two. They actually have little to do with each other. I'm going to hold that answer and see what you think when we get done here.
I think Republicans would. Seems about right. Right, Amanda, would you agree with me? Republican would be pretty good.
The people vote through direct elections for representatives. The representatives, in turn, make the decisions in their respective assemblies. So, we vote for city council in Wilder, and that city council of those 4 or 5 people will make the decisions for the city on our behalf. That the presumption is we are intelligent enough to vet these individuals to make sure that they are the best people for the job on our behalf. As you can imagine, we don't normally do that as a society, and most people don't vote. So only a handful, you only need, like in Wilder, probably 200 people vote for you, and you'll win.
See, I didn't want Brad Little to win. I wanted that one female, Paulette.
Paulette Jordan? Well, if you were in government class with me last quarter, you'd probably have a different opinion.
Really?
Yep.
I wanted her to win.
Because she Kamala
Yeah.
tried to legalize marijuana.
Yes.
And she couldn't even do that. She wouldn't even be able to do that. That's not in her control. The governor doesn't make the law.
I wanted her to win either way.
Now listen up. Here is the element that is democratic. It is the only part in a republic that is democratic, and that is we vote for our representatives. Just because this one element of democracy is in a republic does not make it a democratic system. It has an element of democracy. You will sometimes hear our form of government in this country referred to as democratic Democratic Republic. Democratic Republic, there we go. That is not correct. We are a constitutional republic. But again, people misunderstand or just out of ignorance don't know the difference. You should know the difference because that's why it started. You're going to be tested on this. But I do need to give you a caveat. Here's a warning. They're going to ask you on your citizenship test basically this question. The kind of government the United States is, and the only right one on there is democracy.
I'm already a citizen.
But understand that is not correct. But that is the correct answer for that test.
I'm already a citizen, though. I don't need to. I'm a citizen.
Yeah, it's a graduation requirement. We'll still take it again. It just won't hurt you. All right.
Can we take a break real fast, Mom?
We are almost to a point where we're at a natural break. All right. A Republican form of government, the democratic element exists when the people vote, Chappie, when the people vote for their representatives. That's the only element that is democratic.
What test is that you
The citizenship test.
and we all need to take it?
Yes.
Citizenship test and what kind of government we are, democratic.
Yes. Yes. I have not had anybody fail it yet. Doesn't mean they didn't take it 10 times. 96.
God damn, I ain't taking that.
The real one's 100. When you go down to the citizenship place, it's 100. And you have to score 100%. You only have to score 70 here.
100%. You get all of them right.
Yep.
What happens if you do get 100%?
Who's your president?
Great.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Yeah. Bragging rights. Bragging rights. Abel and I is even talking about creating an award for it. So we haven't decided what we'll do yet. All right. We've already talked about representatives makes decisions. Gentlemen, The Republican form of government in our system is the representatives. The key aspect here, these people we vote for, is in the name of them, representatives. That means they represent something. Who or what are they representing? Us. Yes. When they cease to represent us, then what is our duty to do? Remove them from office. And in most jurisdictions, you can do what's called a recall, have a vote to recall them. Excuse me. That actually happened not long ago in Middleton. And there was another mayor somewhere else in Idaho that was removed from office by the people. Or you could wait till the next election and put somebody else in who you think, from your investigation, is going to better represent your desires.
Why wait and then see that?
Say again?
If they're removed from office, who can take a spot?
Then typically, most jurisdictions like city councils will have a provision in their constitution that they'll appoint somebody from their council. So they'll be appointed to it.
Doesn't just be like the runner-up of the thing?
Not typically. Usually they pick from their body, and then that person will have to run when that seat comes open again. Yes, Michaela?
Does each state have like their own version of a constitution, or does the constitution go for every state?
So we have the federal constitution, which is the United States Constitution. Then every state, by law, according to the federal constitution, is required to be a republic, and they all have their own constitutions. There are some things legal in Oregon per their constitution that is not legal here, and vice versa. They actually did not change their constitution for that. Yeah.
Wait, so then it's still illegal?
It's legal in the state under state law. It is still illegal under federal law.
FBI can barge in there and bust it.
They are breaking federal law doing what they're doing in Oregon. Yeah. And they could be arrested at any time. Every one of those people, all those shops and all that, they all could be closed down under federal law.
Wait, why?
Because they're breaking federal law. The states may have made it legal, but there's still a federal law, and you have what's called the supremacy clause. The federal government would argue that the federal law is supreme over state law, so just because it's legal in the state doesn't mean they get to override the federal law. But the states argue the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment is very clear on whether the states have the right to legalize it or not. We'll get there when we get to the 10th Amendment. I don't want to get off track yet.
Can we take a break after this, Mom?
No, we're going to try to go. What time is it? Oh, we'll take a break at the end of class. We're going to try to get this done. We spent all day yesterday on other issues. Like I said, the United States is erroneously referred to as a democratic republic. That is not correct. We are a constitutional republic. The Constitution, a constitution, is a written form of governance. That's what makes the difference. A democratic republic may not have a written law. It could be everybody up for vote. You live today, you die tomorrow, all by the vote. Whereas a constitution provides a framework from which the government's going to work, and most importantly, La Vita Dominante, protection from that, outlines the rights, or let me do it as a negative positive. It restrains the government from doing things to the people. In other words, our Constitution is unique this way. It says what it can't do to the people. And what it can't do is anything that it does not say it can do in the Constitution. If it does not say that the federal government can do it, they were not supposed to do it. It was reserved for the states. So, fast forward to Oregon. There's no place in the Constitution that says that the federal government has the authority to regulate not regulate, because that actually means regular, to prohibit the use of marijuana. So under our Constitution, it is reserved, according to the 10th Amendment, because the 10th Amendment says anything that is not expressly stated in the Constitution that is reserved for the federal government is for the states and the people. So, under the 10th Amendment, it is very clear that the marijuana issue, just like the marriage issue, just like any number driving speed limits, is all up to the state. Same sex. The Supreme Court is wrong on their ruling for same sex, because it is up to the state of Idaho, up to Oregon, and all the other 50 states to determine what marriage will be in their state, whether marijuana will be legal or not. And if these states want it, and I think the states are doing it right, let the people decide. If they want it, including the consequences of it, that is up to them. The federal government disagrees with that. But it comes down to a fundamental issue. Who has supreme control? The states or the federal government? The Civil War decided that for us. It's not the states anymore. It's not. It was supposed to be, but it's not anymore. Go ahead.
Let's say you get same-sex kids married in Oregon, and then they come here. Are they still married?
Well, that was part of the argument. What happens then? Well, for the most part, most people would probably say no, they are not married. Their marriage would not be recognized in Idaho. They could still be married, but they wouldn't be eligible for benefits, tax benefits, that kind of stuff, because that's what marriage does in terms from a civil perspective. Then you have the theological, religious perspective. So that's what they were fighting for, was equal rights that way. Well, we do now because of the Supreme Court. But 76% of Idahoans voted to change the Constitution, the Idaho Constitution, to say marriage is defined as one man, one woman. And in fact, most state constitutions were amended within about 5 years to say that. And then some people sued and went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court threw everybody's wishes out the door. Said, we don't care what the state has to say. We don't care what the people says. Screw the heck with the 10th Amendment. We're going to say you have to accept gay marriage. Now, constitutionally, they have no basis for that. And the states had a decision. We're going to learn about this with nullification later, probably in History B, or not History B, the history class and in Government B. But the ideal nullification is what Oregon and these other states are doing for marijuana. They are ignoring federal law. They come enforce it then. But the states did not do the same thing regarding the marriage issue. The states could have said, you can't enforce that here, goodbye. And they could have kept doing what they were doing. But the states caved. I still don't quite understand why. But they're picking and choosing which laws to nullify. And, yeah.
Could be some shady stuff.
Maybe. So, I think it's for example, Lawrence Wasden, he's one that stated that the Civil War determined the states do not have states don't have sovereign rights. That decided that. That's his philosophy on that, which is most attorneys now, because that's what they're taught. The problem is our Constitution tells us how the Constitution is supposed to be changed, and in no place does it say a war does it. There's only 2 ways to amend the Constitution, and one of those is not war. So he's absolutely incorrect, but nobody's willing to force it and have another civil war over it.
Wait, so we have a whole other civil war over this?
We almost had a second one within 10 years after the second one we had. Remember, the American Revolution was a civil war too. So what we call our first civil war is actually a second.
So this would have been our third.
Yeah. So, and there are historians today say we are in the next one now. We just don't realize it.
What are we supposed to realize for us then?
That we're in one?
But who is it against? Like, who
That's a great question. So it's nothing in history of government's ever black and white. So the two sides, the two opposing sides are labeled this way. Right and left, Republican, Democrat, globalist, nationalist, populist, globalist. Trying to think some of the other labels. Marxist, constitutionalist. Let's see here. We got nationalist. We got globalist. We got international bankers. So we have all these different groups that are subdividing, but they essentially come down to two sides. Are we going to be a sovereign nation, or are we going to be part of the Federation of Planets? Star Wars. Or not Star Wars. Star Trek. Yep. And coming down to that, you have people who will fight if they have to make a decision between being part of the United Nations and all that movement or be a sovereign country.
Are we sovereign?
Are we?
I would say no.
As a nation, we're probably hanging on by a thread because the UN is always trying to get their fingers in us, and we have politicians in Washington, D.C. who wants the UN involved. The longest-serving Supreme Court justice we have right now, which she may end up having to leave the court, either by the lack of her heartbeat or just inability to do her job, Ginsburg. She has stated in her opinions that we should be looking at international law when we decide court cases. That is unbelievable for a Supreme Court judge to say. So, but she did miss for the first time in her life a court hearing this week, and she's in the hospital. She had a lung surgery. They found cancer, and she's 90-something, I think. And there's some question whether she'll be able to. She wants to stay until Trump is replaced, she said, but there's some question whether she'll be able to, which would give Trump his third nominee pick. So, as you can imagine, the conservatives would like to see her gone. All right. Two classes of jurisdictional government in the U.S. Any idea what these two classes are? We've been talking about it.
How competitive?
No? No, that's political party.
I tried.
Where do we live?
Idaho.
In Idaho. What is Idaho?
A state?
A state. What country do we live in?
USA.
USA. Is that a country?
Yeah?
All right, there's your two jurisdictions. You have national government or federal government, same thing, and you have state government. You can also refer to the federal government as central government. You often will use the word central government when you're dealing with Marxist governments. Marxist, which is also part of socialism, almost all of the isms. And you get the ideal of central government from central planners, the elites who know better than you, planning your life 3,000 miles away in a little capital, who's never probably even been in your region, trying to tell you how to live and use your water and your sewer and all of that kind of stuff. And how many hours you can work and what kind of job you should have. Yes, Harlan?
That reminded me of the Patriot. Why trade one tire 3,000 miles away from 3,000 tires 1 mile?
That's right, from the Patriot. Yep. That was a great quote. So this defines state government real quick. These are going to be quick. They're just overviews. States are defined by geographical boundaries, and they have their own republican form of government. Every state in our union, by law, in our Constitution, must be a republic. Ironically, the only state that does not have 3 branches of government, let me rephrase that. They have 3 branches, but they don't have 2 houses. They have what's called a unicameral house. 1 house in the state house versus all other states, they are bicameral, 2 houses, House and Senate. Any idea which house or which state only has 1? Nope.
New Jersey.
Nope.
Virginia.
Nope.
Idaho.
Nope.
Texas.
Nope.
Arizona.
You only got 40 more to go. Nope. Nope.
Massachusetts.
Nope. Nope.
Tennessee.
Nope.
Michigan.
Nope. Nope. Nope.
Washington,
West Virginia.
Kentucky said that already.
No, Washington, D.C. is not a state. No, no, state, not country. Kansas, no, but close. Arkansas, nope.
Hawaii.
Nope.
Illinois.
Nope.
Alaska.
Indiana.
Nope. Nope.
Ohio.
Nope.
Delaware. North
Nope. Nope.
You just tell
Nope.
Wyoming.
North Dakota.
Nope.
Wyoming.
Nope. Nope.
Utah.
Nope. 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 Nope.
Alabama.
Nope.
Alaska.
Nope.
Arizona.
start with.
Hey,
Starts with an N.
New Jersey.
Nebraska.
Nebraska. There you go. You only got to number 49 before you got it. Somebody said, Michaela said Kansas. I said close.
I know, I was trying to think about the other states around there.
Can I just go to the bathroom? I really gotta go. No BS.
Okay.
He beat you.
Oh, sorry. Do it quick because she's got to go too. Girls have a tougher time holding it.
Oh, I've been holding it all the past year. So you can wait.
Can we go on? Okay, 1787. Our Constitution was ratified because the states realized they could not do all the functions, governing functions, well separately. So they came together and decided to pool their authority. In other words, delegate their authority to do governing business to one central authority. And they did that by drafting the Constitution, telling the central government, the federal government, here are the things we, the states, who are sovereign, want you to do on our behalf. Such as printing money. We have one national currency. Up to this point, all the colonies had their own different currencies. And they were worth different amounts in other colonies. Some colonies wouldn't even take the money. You had to buy and do trading with their own money. Remember the currency? Oh, you haven't got, that's the history, Currency Act. We haven't got there. Oh, I have replicas in my drawer. Remind me Monday. The first thing they wanted them to do, of course, was to protect their natural rights. Now, this is important. The states, at no time did they ever think they were surrendering their rights. Everything that they delegated was the state's rights to do, a state right to do. Coin money, defense, provide for the general welfare of their people. That's a state job. But they recognize they can't do it as efficiently and as well separately. So they delegated some of these things to this federal government. It would be like this. Hey, I got to go use the restroom. Maddie, would you take charge of the class for me? I have delegated my authority to her. If she tells you to jump, you jump because she's speaking with my voice. If you tell her to go pound sand, you just told me to go pound sand. She represents me. The federal government represented the states. When I come back, I can take that authority from her. I can take that delegation back because it was mine to give and it's mine to take back. It was the state's authority given to this other entity of which, and since it was theirs to begin with, it was theirs to take back. This is the way the states saw this up through the Civil War. I should say, in particular, the southern states. They always held to the belief that at any time, if they thought the central government was being abusive to them, they could withdraw from the Union. They could take back their authority and become a separate country of their own. Up until, I'm not sure when it changed, but I can tell you this, When Lewis and Clark got to North Dakota, what we call North Dakota today, and greeted the Mandan Indians, I think it was Lewis who said this, greetings from the president of the 13 nations. Not 13 states. They seen each state as not as a small s state, like we see states today, but as nation states, as full countries. This plays a huge role when we get to the Civil War, when we start leading up to the Civil War. Each state agreed to delegate, enumerate it. Enumerate it, what does that mean? Anybody want to take a guess? A list. Enumerate mean they're a very particular list of things that they delegated to the federal government. In fact, there's 18 of them. The legislative branch, the House and Senate in the United States government, is only supposed to do 18 things for the states. I assure you, regulating marriage was not one of them. Regulating marijuana was not one of them. Regulating our lives was not one of them. Regulating your school lunch was not one of them. Regulating your schooling was not one of them. How many of you guys noticed a change a couple years ago in your lunch quality? Yeah, probably everybody. That came from the federal government. Yeah.
It was, did you see some of the videos of her taking away our parents give them, like taking away a sandwich and giving them chicken nuggets?
Yeah. This shared power is known as federalism. This is something I'm almost for certain is on the citizenship test as well. That's why I started. Federalism is this shared power. Or let me rephrase this, not shared power. In some cases there are shared powers, and we'll get there, but delegated powers. Think of a piece of paper. If you tear a piece of paper is what, about 11 inches long, tall? Tear 2 inches off. That piece of paper would represent the federal government. The rest of it represents the state power. Now today it has done the reverse, because we have left our first principles in this country regarding our constitutional government. But federalism, when it was established, you can think of it as that. A little piece of paper for the federal government, the rest of it is reserved for the states. This ideal is called federalism. A distribution of power between the government authorities. Power or duties. Probably duties would be a better word than power, but we can use it both. The important part here to remember is that the states did not surrender their authority, but delegated it. They did not give up their authority, their power, their duties. They only delegated it. We're almost done. When do we get out? Oh, I'm not sure we're going to get the last couple slides done then. Bummer. There will be a quiz, ladies and gentlemen, on Monday. Nope. We're going to go right up probably to the bell. Federal government, we've already talked about that, also known as the central government, United States government, or national government. I left one, oh yeah, federal government, there we go, we have it in there in the heading. Anytime, when we're talking about United States government, we use these terms that all means federal government. Most of the time, it's referred to as the federal government, or for short, the feds. Anytime you're dealing with a federal agency, bureaucracy, it's just for short, they say the feds. The feds, the feds, the feds. Now, if they're talking about economics, they could be talking about the Federal Reserve, because they will shorten Federal Reserve with feds. So you got to be aware of what context they're using it in. I want to hear about your Twitter wars this weekend. Facebook wars and Instagram wars and, oh, Snapchat. That's what you all do, Snapchat. I haven't been on a good fight in a while.
Why talking so hard?